It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is the first show of 2025. This is January 2nd, 2025, and this is segment C, which means this segment starts around 7:43. John, as far as, do you do New Year's resolutions?
Did we discuss this the other day?
Well, I can't remember.
I'm just joking. No, of course I don't. No, I did when I was a kid, though, and I did through my 20s. You
have no resolutions whatsoever?
No. I do things as they come up. I don't wait until the first of the year to be fat and lazy in November and December and then decide on January I'm going to change my life. I don't do that. But I think it's adorable when people do. And it's adorable to hear other people's resolutions. As we talked about right before New Year's, Brad.
Adorable.
Smile and nod.
John.
When people tell you about all the things they're going to do, just pretend that you believe them and then know that they're all going to fail and they're not even going to try.
Boy, Mr. Positivity here, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Realism. So, Brad, what are your resolutions?
I have a bunch.
Oh, really? Do you want to share any of them? I'll smile and nod over here.
I'm going to essentially make sure that I don't ever say McCloskey again. McCluskey. That's one of my resolutions.
No, but in real life, what kind of things personally are you looking to accomplish that you'll be comfortable sharing?
Well, a lot of things with the radio stations. I mean, matter of fact, I've got something next week. When I tell you what I've got going next week, you won't believe it. Matter of fact, I've got two interesting things that are going to happen in January, and one of them is going to happen next Monday, where you're going to say, or either Monday or Tuesday, depending on how I get this scheduled, but when you're going to eat your words about something you've said about the show from time to time.
Oh, wow. And how many days will that last?
It will be an ongoing thing.
Oh, wow. I totally believe it, Brad.
Yeah, it will be an ongoing thing. And when I tell you, I will say, honestly, you will be impressed. You will go, oh, my God, that's pretty cool.
You are a great man, and you don't need to impress me, Brad.
No. Well, okay. Yesterday, what did I spend my, other than going, and I'm not trying to, curry favor with anybody, other than going to the hospital twice to see Shelley, and the reason I went twice, which I won't talk about, but I was cleaning yesterday, and you know what? I hate to clean, and I went through a closet that, and this is sort of complicated, but a closet that was not necessarily my closet. It was someone else's closet that they stored stuff in, okay? And I leave it at that. And I found stuff you wouldn't believe. And what was interesting about it is I found a box of tapes that we used to use in the radio business, 7-inch reels and 11-inch reels? Was that 15-inch reels? I can't remember. The big reels on the reel-to-reel machines. And the problem is I have nothing to play them back on. And I find this interesting. No, but seriously, because the technology has changed, and to the point where there's interesting website or a Facebook page that I've been drawn into, and I think it's called Hey Audio Student, and it shows all these incredible studios, and most of them are like 20, 30, 40-year-old pictures, and that has totally changed. Back in the day, you had these big, monstrous recording consoles, which had, literally hundreds, some of them even thousands of knobs and switches and things on them. 48 input boards with all these crazy different things. And that's pretty much gone by the wayside. If you ever want to watch something interesting, if you watch that Taylor, and I know you're not going to watch this, there was that Taylor Swift documentary that came out a couple years ago. You know what I'm talking about?
No, so I know that there's one that came out about the Eras tour, but I don't know the other Taylor Swift one.
Yeah, it was one where they sort of follow her around, and this is when she had the other boyfriend who nobody knew who he was. He was like the secret boyfriend. I don't think she wrote any songs about him, but
I think she did. He wasn't famous, but yeah, she wrote a number of songs about him. Yeah.
Right. Nobody knew who he was, and she didn't bring him out in public. It wasn't like the Kelsey thing or anything like that. But they show her in the studio, and they show her by herself in the studio laying down tracks. There's nobody else there. It's a relatively small studio. That's how things have changed. And it's to the point where the big recording studios, matter of fact, I don't know, I've been trying to find this out for sure, but at Page and 170, do you know where the Home Depot is? The Page and 170?
I know exactly where that is. I've been to that Home Depot.
Okay, if you go down that road, There is a business park back there. There's a bunch of, there's a couple warehouse buildings, and then there's some, matter of fact, that's where, believe it or not, that's where K-Wolf is. Don't ask me why. It's where if you're into old-timey stuff, it's where the Build-A-Bear Workshop World Headquarters used to be. Okay, as you go down that road, I don't know what the name of the road is, but if you turn off a page, it's the very first traffic light east of 170. You go down that road, and as the first building on your left is a recording studio that nobody knows about. It was built 20 years ago, and I can't remember who built the studio. And you never see anybody there. I go by it from time to time. And supposedly Nelly owns it now. That's his own personal recording studio. But you never see anybody there. It's always, the parking lot's always empty and the whole bit. And the reason for that is, on the most part, that most of your dedicated recording studios can't make any money anymore because of the fact that everybody's got a home studio. It's sort of like the deal in the radio business. Everybody's got a home studio that, people don't want to go to work. They don't want to get up and go and go to a studio anymore. They want to do their show from home. And even take it one step further, there was a point in time when people who did podcasts would go to a dedicated podcast studio. Now you go buy, you go to Guitar Center, you buy a $100 microphone, you buy a little Rode, what they call it, podcast or something like that, and bang, you're in business and you're on the internet and you can stream live and stuff like that. But there's something about, and this is what's interesting about this one channel, this one page I watch, there's something that's missing about the fact that a bunch of guys, and this is not necessarily how everything was recorded, but you go back in the old days of Frank Sinatra and things like that, when they recorded those songs, the entire orchestra was there in the studio because they didn't have multi-track recorders. And multi-track recorders meaning they didn't, one guy would come in and lay down the drum track, and another guy would come in the next day and put in the guitar track, and then a couple days later when the bass guitar track was on there, and then a week later the vocalist would come in and do the vocal track. Everything was recorded live in real time. And there was a big old studio with a bunch of microphones, and Frank Sinatra went up to the Neumann U87 and sang the song. There's something missing about that. And there's something missing about so many things today where we don't see anybody anymore. And matter of fact, if you listen to Armstrong and Getty after we get off the air at 8 o'clock, Armstrong and Getty, Jack Armstrong talks about this all the time, about his sons. He's got, I think one son is 16, the other son's 13, about how they are becoming incredibly socially inept because of the fact that they don't talk to anybody. It's everything is, and he talks about the fact that when his kids, his one son plays in some kind of a baseball team, and sometimes they have a van that picks him up. And he talks about the fact that none of the kids talk in the van anymore. They're all on their iPhones or their Androids, and they got their earbuds in. They're listening to music and stuff like that. And to a certain extent, I think that is really harming our future population. Because, and it's to the point where I still talk about this. Tomorrow I will make another venture to another broadcaster in St. Louis who is doing me wrong, who won't talk to me. Tomorrow will be the third time I've showed up at their office, and they won't even talk to me. And I'm thinking to myself, how sad is this? You know what I'm saying, John?
I do know. Well, first of all, we'll go in reverse order. It's really easy for somebody to hide behind a screen or email or an assistant and just say they don't have time. So that's where, but that also happened 10 years ago. That also happened 20 years ago. In fairness, that happened at times. But Brad, don't you think you remember raising kids in the 1980s and 1990s, and there were other parents that allowed their kids on a Saturday morning to sit in front of a television from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they used the television, which might have had a pair of rabbit ears on top of it, as a babysitter. And that was happening then. And old-timey people were like, I can't believe what's going on. Kids are glued to these dag-nab color televisions. What a shame it is. So it's not entirely different that some percentage of kids are glued to technology and having their brain allegedly rotted by staring at electronics. Remember? You knew other parents that let their kids sit in front of the TV all day, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is this is taking it to the next degree. And I heard this guy, I can't remember his name. It was fascinating. I should see if I can, I wrote it down in my car. I'll see if I can find it. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Fascinating guy on one of the talk shows. Of course, here's my other complaint. Okay, does anybody work Now, I mean, here we are the day after New Year's, and there are a lot of people that won't go back to work till Monday. Okay, in the broadcasting business, I'm so sick and tired of turning on the radio and having, here's a best of show. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's all best of.
and the sad part of this is, I'm going to make an indictment on my on the radio business, and me included. Okay, yesterday, with all this crazy crap happening in New Orleans and in Las Vegas, okay? I'm listening to 97.1. I'm listening to The Patriot. I'm listening to Tracy's station. You would have never known any of this stuff is going on because of the fact it's a holiday and nobody's there and they're playing best of shows and, you know, nobody's really doing anything to be in real time. And me included. Our radio stations, we didn't do any special programming on this, although this station did because of the fact that we were picking up the Fox newscasts. And when I went into the computer yesterday, and I'm not trying to beat my chest and say wonderful guy I am, I put in more newscasts. I can do that. I can actually program the computer so it picks up more Fox newscasts as far as the updates are concerned. Excuse me, that kind of stuff. But yet, everybody else is gone. They're on vacation. You know,
Yeah. Why would you expect somebody to come to work on January 1st?
because they should have pride in what they do. And
I know. I mean, I asked that rhetorically, Brad.
well, you know, John, I'm old guy already, 89, one foot in the banana peel, one foot in the grave. I guess what I see is that I play this little one minute vignette by Gary Vee. Have you ever heard it on the station before where he talks about
I've heard it all the time.
And I think he's exactly right. This is how societies and governments and countries fail. Everybody gets fat and sassy. Everybody gets to the point where, hey.
Wait, is this another 93.3 reference there, Brad?
No, I'm not saying that at all. If anything, I will give credit to
Brad, it was a fat and sassy joke. It was a fat joke. Go ahead.
I will get credit to Rick and Tracy because of the fact that they've done a lot of their stuff is live. I'll give them credit for that.
Okay, I interrupted you with a fat joke. Go ahead, Brad.
No.
It was the Gary Vee thing that we talk about a lot, which he says that people get lazy and soft.
Right.
And it's the old, strong men create good times, etc.
The fall of the Roman Empire. Everybody just got very comfortable and to the point where, hey, everything's fine. And to the point where I can still remember years ago, this has stuck with me. Dick Stratman, who was running for re-election to the mayor of Washington, he was the mayor of Washington for a couple terms. And we used to have him on the talk show all the time until he got in a fight with Brian Nieves and he'd never come back on the show again. But that's a whole other story. And Dick was running for re-election. And I was interviewing on the show one morning and we're talking about various things. And he's doing his door knocking thing like Tom Smith would be happy that he's doing door knocking. And I said to him, Dick, what's the most common question you get when you're out there knocking on people's doors? And you know what he said to me?
What's that?
When is Big Lots opening? Now, at the time, it was the time Big Lots had announced they're coming into Washington.
And now they're closing. But the Washington one may be spared, according to a news story at emissourian.com. But go ahead, Brad.
Right. Well, so the idea being is that people didn't care about government. They didn't care about the fire department or the ambulance service or the police department or how the roads were. They want to know when Big Lots was going to be open. And to me, that's like, how sad is that? If your life revolves around when's the store going to open? But I get it. I get there's people that are like that. I mean, maybe we've seen to a certain extent the death of that with the death of the malls because remember you used to have the people who would live at the mall. Remember?
Yeah. Can I interrupt, Brad? I was playing categories with 3 Offspring recently, and one of the questions was things you find in a mall, and one of my top 3 favorite children said, "What's a mall?" And I had to remind this child what it was like, the fact they've been there once. And it's an old-timey place where people, I literally said, if you don't want to order something on Amazon, sometimes people like to go places and they like to walk around and they like to buy stuff in a store. Now, Brad, I don't know why you would do that when you can click a button on Amazon and go back to eating ice cream on your couch. But yeah, old people like to put their Skechers on and putz around the mall and do a little walking.
But John, you're a smart guy. Why did the malls die?
Because MetroLink started running there, and you knew it was no longer safe to go to Urban Outfitters.
No, you're talking about one specific mall.
You're talking about the Soul Train going to Galleria. No, I don't know, Brad. Why?
Well, I want you to. I thought you'd know.
Well, because you can order everything. You can order everything online. There's no reason to walk around a mall.
But John, to me, and once again, I'm a guy that buys stuff on Amazon, and the reason I buy stuff on Amazon is because I can't buy it locally anymore. I mean,
it's self-perpetuating, right? Like, why would you? What you're saying is you would only buy it online if you can't go to what's the old-timey. There used to be like a music store that was like on the Rock Road or something. Like, if you can't find a piece of audio equipment at a store, you're going to go and buy it online. But Brad Hildebrand would rather invest 30 minutes driving to a store, having a talk with another boomer, buying it, and then going back home.
No, most of the time when it was called Mars, that's what you're talking about on the Rock Road, the musical is called.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
Right, it was on the Rock Road.
I'm thinking of Guitar Center. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, but there's still guitar centers around. Although the guitar centers had some issues where they're like billions of dollars in debt, and they're.
I got you off track. You were talking about malls.
See, this is why you and I are totally different. Is because I still believe that there's. I mean, like me being in business. Okay, I can text clients. I have clients that I do not business with over either text or email. Occasionally. And still on the phone, John's going, well, you talk to people on the phone? Yes, I do talk to people on the phone. And one day, I will tell you the story of a guy who once upon a time worked for me and who's now a multi-millionaire. And if I told you his secret to success is, if I told you right now, John, I could probably tell the story in 30 seconds, but we're over already. If I told you this story, you would laugh. Oh, that's the way it used to be. That's like old boomer stuff. Nobody does business.
He was
like
doing something old-timey. And Brad, I believe there's certainly people who are open to in-person visits and things like that. And then there's the rest of the real world and people under 60. You're right.
Okay, John. You know what I'm going to do?
I think you're going to put a thumb drive at godsquad.cloud, and you're going to download everybody's information, and you're going to give it to the government. That's what I think you're going to do.
I'm going to go on Amazon and hire a new John Combest. I'll just go.
There's a million of them, Brad.
I'll just go.
There's a million. But you know what? You can't return them.
I'll just go on Amazon and go, I don't like this John Combest. I want a different John Combest.
Where are you ever going to find a 5'9" white guy, Brad? Where are you ever going to find one of those in America?
By the way, one of the news stories, or you and I being former NOCO guys, Mark Cox had the story, a developing story of a car in North County this morning. Supposedly this happened this morning. I don't know if you've seen any of the stories. The car, the police found it with 67 bullet holes in it. So.
Oh, wow. Too short of what he needed, Brad.
Yeah, it's okay. John, say goodbye.
See you tomorrow.